cleanliness, appearance, safety, lighting, fire suppression, pretty much anything you would see. The stations are the front door to our system, right? It's the first thing people see when they come in, and it's the last thing when they leave. So it's our responsibility to make sure that experience is a good one and a safe one and a secure one.
Welcome back to Spilling the Tea, the podcast where we explore the inner workings of the MBTA. I'm your host, Andrew Cassidy, and today we have a very special guest, Dennis Varley, the MBTA's Chief of Stations. In today's episode, we'll explore the challenges and opportunities Dennis has encountered on the job. We'll discuss his vision for improving station safety, cleanliness, and overall rider experience, as well as the specific projects he's currently tackling. Dennis brings over 30 years of experience in the transit industry, and his hands-on approach is already making a noticeable difference. From addressing safety hazards to enhancing station aesthetics, Dennis is committed to ensuring that the MBTA's stations meet the high standards that riders deserve. So get ready to learn about the critical changes happening in our stations and how these efforts aim to create a safer, more welcoming environment for our riders. Dennis, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me.
Can you start by giving us an overview of your role as the MBTA's Chief of Stations and what really drew you to this position? I know that you came on board shortly after a time when there were some incidents of falling ceiling pieces, and the general manager was very much interested in filling this role. Could you tell us what it is that you're doing in it and what your purview is?
I was not here for the incidents, obviously. I was, at the time, the deputy chief engineer of the Long Island Railroad. I had worked with Phil when he was the president during his tenure there. I was, at that time, the assistant chief engineer of structures, so I dealt with Phil a lot. Unbeknownst to me at the time, I was interviewing for this position when I was at that position. So when Phil came up to Massachusetts, to the MBTA, he called me up a few weeks later and asked me if I'd have any interest in coming to Boston and joining the senior staff. He said he was looking to create a new position for the T, the chief of stations and facilities. He did share the instance of things falling and the lack of potential station oversight or, gaps in some of what we would consider a viable, vital inspection process. So that went back and forth for a while. Really, the driving force was the fact that it was a new challenge. It was a place to leverage my prior 34 years of experience in transportation with infrastructure. I was always in an infrastructure area. And he shared some of the issues and challenges that the T was facing at the time and asked if I would help him move the T forward with more proactive maintenance procedures and inspection processes. And as we ramp up the operating staff and the trades, if I'd be, interested in coming up and kind of leading that charge. And here I am. So I guess the answer was yes.
And so now you've come on board. You're the MBTA's first chief of stations. What are some of the more significant challenges or just things you've noticed that are maybe different or unique to the MBTA since coming on board? How does that compare to the other transit agencies you've worked at in the past?
The infrastructure is similar. There's not that much difference in transportation infrastructure in an old city. I did 23 years or almost 23 years in the Department of Subway. So I was familiar with older, more mature subway infrastructure and transportation infrastructure. The T is no different there. What I did notice as a difference is the state of good repair was, and it's been well publicized, is not what I would have expected in a city that is as robust and has a vital economy like Boston. And that's one of the challenges. And also I did notice that the operating forces were not at a level, resource to a level that I would have expected. It seems like we were very capital centric. And we're changing that. Phil has made a commitment to beef up our operational forces, our internal capability. So we're not so dependent on others. So we can do a lot of our own work, our own maintenance, be more proactive, be more flexible, build institutional knowledge, that pride that comes with that depth that comes with that you'll never really enjoy or have the benefit from if you are totally reliant on outside contractors all the time. We need consultants and we need contractors for a lot of things, but we don't necessarily need that for our internal maintenance, things that we should be able to do in-house.
So again, new position. Can you tell us a little bit about your department and what it looks like right now, how many people you're overseeing and kind of how that matches up to the workload ahead of them?
We're on the budget. So we have budgeted for, I think the number's 270. We're with the latest hires, probably still about 50 under. For the next budget cycle, we have a commitment to hire some more heads. It's transit facility management is the area that we have. So it's what you would call structures in another agency. We are responsible for all the facilities, all the stations, platforms, bridges, pretty much any of the structures in the T. The stations is obviously a big component of it. The cleaning is a third-party contractor that is under us. The operations of train, the rail, that's obviously not us. It's maintaining the actual infrastructure. So cleanliness, appearance, safety, lighting, fire suppression, pretty much anything you would see. The stations are the front door to our system, right? It's the first thing people see when they come in, and it's the last thing when they leave. So it's our responsibility to make sure that experience is a good one and a safe one and a secure one.
Well said. So what sort of changes are happening in your department now, and what does that mean for our riders, or what will that mean for our riders?
Well, one thing that I'm excited about personally is we do now have hired, he's been here almost 2 weeks, Deputy Chief of Stations. Mike Foglio is his name. So he comes from Metro North. He was responsible for the front of house activities at Grand Central. So Grand Central Station is a huge station in New York, as everybody knows. Gets a lot of airtime. It has an enormous passenger input, and it's actually a tourist destination. So it's a busy, busy place, and he comes with a wealth of experience. Started his career as a track worker and worked his way up. So that's a lot of depth that is hard to find. So we're glad to have him on board. And reporting to him, we are hiring 4 branch line managers. So we've identified 1 so far, maybe 2. We're going to get 4. We're still interviewing. The branch line managers are going to be responsible for, just like it sounds, they're responsible for a branch. So if I was the red line branch line manager, I'm going to ride that branch. I'm going to know the nooks and crannies of the stations, the contiguous facilities, and the bus stops. And they're going to be the eyes and ears. They're not driving vehicles. They're taking the T. They're walking the stations. They're going to see what the riders see. They effectively have the same experience as our ridership, right? So that's a great asset to have those eyes and ears out there, and they see something, they can get it addressed. They can put in a ticket, address cleanliness issues promptly, right? They get off the train, they go out and look. If it's not clean or it has some odors that are not favorable, they can call the cleaners right away and be reactive rather than wait till somebody tells us, or we just find out or the cleaners get to it. So things like that, maybe tactile that's heaved up, or if people need help, they'll get to know the inspectors too. They'll get to know the employees at the stations. I think that's going to be a big asset. We did have them where I came from at the Long Island Railroad. They would let us know about things. We couldn't be everywhere, right? Long Island Railroad operates from Penn to Montauk. I didn't have people everywhere. So they would call in. They could be out of the station. Hey, we noticed we're in Montauk and, the handrail's loose in Montauk. We would get information like that, and that's what's great about a program like that. So I'm looking forward to getting them on board. The more informed employees you have out there, the better we'll be.
With so many different things affecting the system, how is it that you're able to prioritize and determine which areas are going to be addressed first, which need to be addressed first? How are you kind of tackling that situation?
Safety's first, obviously. So anything that's safety related is first. And that's pretty much sacrosanct, right? You would always do the safety issues first. Then anything that impacts the operation, that's obviously the next priority. Funding comes into the mix. I mean, you're not going to not fund safety. You're going to find the money for safety. So I would never ignore anything safety related because I couldn't get funding. We would get the funding somehow. But when it comes to operational impact or aesthetics, well, that's when you start getting more of the subjective. So then we have restrictions with access under the FTA guidelines. So what access can we get? What can we actually get done in the time allotted? What can we get done with the resources that we have? For instance, for the entire system, I have 19 carpenters. That's not a lot of carpenters for a system this size, right? If I do them in my house, I might have 19 carpenters. So you have to allocate the staff as best we can to make it the most efficient. In some cases, I'll use carpenters for example. We assign laborers to the carpenters to kind of expand what they can get done, expand their breadth. You rely on your managers a lot, and we're trying to be as proactive as we can and ride the system, go out and see what's going on in it. Not that I'm responsible for is running through my office. So as much as we can, we get myself and the staff, we go out and we see what's going on out there, and then we make decisions and rely on employee and customer feedback. And you can't see everything all the time, right? And especially with the employee facilities, it's good that we start engaging with all the employees there.
Now, you touched upon something that I wanted to bring up, which is being out in the system. I have encountered you many times in the halls of the MBTA. Usually you are on your way back from somewhere, on your way to somewhere. You always have your boots ready. You're usually wearing PPE when I encounter you. How does that approach impact your ability to do your job?
I probably liked to play in the dirt when I was a kid a lot, I guess. But, the assistants I came from, I was always in the operating department. So we spent a lot of time out in the right of way. I mean, that was inherent in an operational position. We couldn't run a system from our offices and add the value that was required in our positions. A few things happen when you go out in the field. First of all, you see what's going on in the field. You see the condition. You see what the T looks like, the nuts and bolts of the T. A lot of that the public won't see. It's transparent to them, right? It's in a tunnel. It's under a platform. It's in a back room. It's in a pump station. But what it also does is, besides that, is the staff see you out there. The tradespeople see you out there. You're out there with them. You're not just given direction from some far away land at 10 pp, right? So you connect with them and you're engaged, so that helps them get more engaged. And they'll come up and they'll give you feedback. Really, our employees are running the system. We owe it to them. I'm not repairing platforms. We're just trying to lead the charge. So, and then any knowledge that we have, we've been kicking around transit systems for a long time. So you pick up a few things along the way, right? So we can bring that experience and share it with the people that, maybe are newer here or they haven't had the same experience or the same training. That's critical.
It's a nice trend I'm noticing. We had Ryan Caholen on a couple episodes back, and he shared very similar sentiment with, the importance of being out there, interacting with the public, interacting with employees, and actually having your eyes on to see the problems that, might be apparent so that they can be addressed rather quickly. I've heard many a tale of you being in a station for something unrelated, but then just calling in all the things that you've noticed that you might need to be addressed or repaired or something to that effect. So I think it's a reassurance to our riders and myself as a rider that, people in senior positions are still out and about and experiencing the same things that they are and doing something about it, most importantly.
That's our job. That's what we're here for, right? We want to leave it a better place than when we found it, right? And train future leaders, the middle management, the mentoring. When we leave here at some point, we want to be able to leave it in a better place and have people that just take over seamlessly and just jump on our suits,
Another trend, mentorship and all that. Again, really looking forward and ahead for the organization. It's great to see. So you touched upon safety quite a bit. Obviously, it is paramount. It's the utmost priority beyond anything here at the MBTA. But how do you plan to address safety and maintenance issues and really help prevent them from occurring in the future?
I'd love to be able to say we're never going to have an incident, but that is not reality. We're going to do our absolute best to make sure that we don't have an incident. When you have a robust inspection process and you know what's going on in the infrastructure, you're going to be proactive and you're going to address issues before they become significant. If you have, water running through a ceiling, a concrete ceiling, you're going to get spoil, right? So you try to divert the water or stop the water, crowd, whatever you need to do so you don't get the delamination of the concrete. If you have loose tactile, you secure the tactile. If the platform edge is crumbling, you make sure you repair the platform edge. You eliminate tripping hazards. If the lights are out, you relamp. You inspect the stairs. If the stair treads are a hazard or worn or there's issues, you address them. You don't wait till we have a failure. Those are the type of things that lead to the issues that, unfortunately, we've experienced in the past, apparently. So it's an old system, and it's been well publicized that we need a fair amount of money to bring it into a state of good repair. So if you're not in a state of good repair and you've been decapitalized, obviously your maintenance requirements go up because you're trying to effectively, chase your tail and keep up. And that's the task ahead of us. As we staff up and we keep people proactive and out there looking, we'll meet the challenge.
I like the confidence. Can you share some specific projects you're currently working on and what improvements riders might be able to expect to see?
I'm not on the capital side, so we don't have the bandwidth, resources, or funding to do a whole station rehabilitation. Like, that's not what we're doing right now. That's being addressed in the capital program. And I'm working closely with them as we determine what stations need it the most. But what riders should be starting to notice, and I think some probably are, is they're better lit. They're cleaner. The tactile isn't heaved up. The cracked tile is now replaced with a tile that matches and not a patch of concrete that is going to fail at some point. We did the floors at JFK and Hines. You might have seen those. Yep. They were in really bad condition. They were tripping hazards, and they were aesthetically, I'll say, less than pleasing.
Yep.
So we're calling them a pilot. It's a material we hadn't used before. Assuming it holds up, we may use that in other places. It's clean. It's easy to clean. There's no tripping hazards. It's great for ADA. It's nice and smooth. We're taking opportunities with these surges. I'll give an example for community college, for instance. The next surge, the pavers in front are broken. They're in really bad shape. Because of the thickness of those pavers, there's no sense repeating the performance and putting pavers that are going to probably fail prematurely again. So we're going to do fiber reinforced concrete. That'll be smooth. It'll be safe. It'll facilitate ADA access. Things like that, people should start to notice. I think they're starting to notice. We're hopping on the cleaning, and that's people notice more than anything else, right? So people have a right to come in a station that does not have strange odors. The walls are clean. The floors are clean.
Lighting is actually one of the things I think we hear about the most. I know when it was done at Park Street, this is a while back, there was a lot of positive press that came out of that. That was kind of the one-off. And I know that that brightness has really expanded to other stations, particularly I think on the Green Line, Government Center, Copley, I want to say. Suddenly it's a nicer, cleaner environment. And you also touched upon, I think, what a lot of people end up appreciating post-surge or post-diversion, which are those station improvements. A lot of the time, the work that goes on the tracks, the signals, people don't necessarily notice or feel that unless there was a speed restriction being removed. But we very frequently hear about, oh, wow, you reopened my station and now, it's clean. They got rid of graffiti or something. They resurfaced the benches. And these are those touch points that make a really big difference and hopefully instill some pride in our system.
Yeah, I'm glad they know. Hopefully they are noticing. There may be some work going on a station, or that it's critical that the public wouldn't say. Again, you have to maximize your resources where you need them the most, right? If we had a cantilevered platform that needed work underneath that platform to make sure that it continues to be safe for the operation and for the live load on top of it, that might be work that is extensive. It takes a lot of resources, but the public, when they came back, they wouldn't know it was done, but it was critical. So they may not always see the station work too. With regard to the lighting, it's great to relamp the stations. One of the issues we have with the old stations is the lighting is not grounded. The circuits are not grounded. So although it sounds easy in theory, just put in, say, new LED fixtures, it's not that easy. So we are relamping where we can and replacing lights where we can. And we are looking forward to and really champion an effort to where we have to run new conduit and new circuits, then we will do that. If we could plug and play, we would be plug and playing all over the place. But it's not that easy in an old system. So
you've touched upon resources, especially being a new department. And obviously, it's no secret that the MBTA is facing larger budgetary issues as a whole. So how is it with those constraints that you're able to ensure that station upgrades are both cost effective, but also impactful given this environment?
As we ramp up our in-house operational resources, there's an offset now on consultant and contractor work. We would be more efficient with our in-house forces because you have a little more flexibility, right? So if you have, I'll use a crumbling platform edge, let's say. So if you had a crumbling platform edge and you had to shore up that platform, if you have the in-house capability of an in-house engineer could design a shoring drawing and give it to our in-house forces, that's pretty efficient. That's pretty quick. That same issue, if we have to get a consultant to do the design and then get a third-party contractor to come do the work, not only is that potentially more costly, but it's not a seamless, quick process. You have to get flagging for the engineer to go out and look at it. You have to get flagging for all those issues. You have to get the outages. It turns into a much slower process. So you can't get as much work done with the same amount of resources, same amount of financial impact. So I think as we staff up, I believe that we will get more work done for the same cost. So that's the goal anyway. As we beef up the operation, that's money well spent because we have to stem the tide of the degradation of the infrastructure. So otherwise, the taxpayers of the Commonwealth will be paying more for it later. The catch-up always costs more than the maintenance, right?
Yeah.
It's just like maintaining your car, right? So the proverbial change in your oil.
How do you balance immediate repairs with long-term repairs for planning and maintenance to ensure sustainable improvement?
When tickets are called in or we see an issue, you need a tracking mechanism, right? So then as those tickets come in, you have to cull through them and take the safety ones out first and address them right away. So then you start thinking, okay, now logistically, do we have an outage coming up that we can jump on and piggyback? What can we get done on a diversion? We have a diversion. What can we get done? How many crews how many do we have available? And how many can we get on at the same time? And how much work do we get done? And then you also want to start thinking about, you don't want to bounce all over the city to do repairs. You want to go down a branch and make it efficient, right? So if you're going down the green line, don't do one repair on the green and then shoot to the red and then go out to Wonderland, right? That's inefficient. So just plan your work accordingly and try to maximize the gangs that you have out there getting the work done. Pre-plan your material and make sure the material is loaded on the truck. Things like that, that in the aggregate start adding up to a lot of efficiency. So individually, you might say, well, what's the difference? Just throw the material on in the morning. Well, if it's loaded at the end of the day when they have a little extra time, they start out fresh. They're ready to go, right? So things like that, and trying to get our managers, get them to start thinking like that and to actually plan the work out and see if we can get as efficient as we can and operate safely, obviously.
Efficiency is a good thing. I think it's something that's appreciated. And again, it's kind of a shift in thinking. And I think everyone can appreciate, being able to get more done, get more benefit for the amount of time that people are being out there. And it seems like it's kind of part of your leadership style, I guess, for your role in this position. What other kind of pieces of leadership wisdom are you kind of sharing, or I guess even just approaching the role since coming to the T?
I've been kicking around operations for a long time, right? So I think that I can listen. I wasn't familiar with the T infrastructure when I got here. And I'm using that as an example as we're mentoring our middle management or people coming up. Like, let's go out together and let's see what's going on out there. They may have some suggestions that I wouldn't have thought of. There's no secret sauce in New York that we came up with, right? It's just years of experience in the operations. And we're part of the team. I want to build a team. I didn't come here to either build an empire or sit at 10 PP and just make phone calls, right? So let's work on this together. You earn respect, right? So if we're a reactive organization that you get the reputation, you can get things done, people are going to gravitate towards that. And yes, that will mean people are going to be calling you for a lot of things to get done. But think of the learning experience and what an organization you can grow from that, how much work that you can actually, improve, how much infrastructure you can improve. Lots of training. We have to invest more in training. We're trying to get different equipment, new equipment that'll help us be more efficient and get a lot more work done. So I've been working with Doug Canet a fair amount on the infrastructure side because effectively his operation and my operation kind of butt against each other, right? So we work pretty closely with each other and his staff. So obviously Ryan. That's one thing that is nice about transportation and railroading in general. Most organizations, you operate on phone calls. Emails and paperwork is not something that you can get things done by just, who to call. They're going to take care of it. They know their end of the business. Okay, got it. And then when they need, you for something that's under your purview, you call up, okay, we'll take care of it. And it's amazing how much you can get done with what is arguably a restriction of resources in that environment. So as opposed to people that just have a piece of something, here it's that one-stop shopping is actually something we're striving for.
So from my perspective, we get a lot of feedback on social and other places where we're hearing from riders specific comments about stations and just kind of infrastructure at the MBTA. What role does community and rider feedback play in your approach to station improvements, and how do you gather and incorporate that feedback into the work that you're doing?
We're sensitive to it. I'd be lying if I said I spent a lot of time on social media because I don't. There's always going to be people that are unhappy, right?
Yeah.
And there's a certain segment of the population, they're never going to be happy. But we do get a lot of constructive feedback from our riders, right? They're out there, they're going to see things that maybe we didn't. Every morning we do get the report of, people that called into the customer center. So, and I read it every morning and I make, there's a lot of cases, legitimate concerns there and we address them. You can't be everywhere, right? So somebody may write that, I saw something hanging from the ceiling in, Park Street or whatever. And then we go out and look, like it's probably legitimate. So things like that. And I think that's good that they do that. Actually, you want the riders to be engaged, right? So they're our customers. So we do incorporate that into our planning. And if we're getting a lot of feedback or complaints about a certain area that there's an issue that's recurring, well, then that's probably not a one-off. That's not somebody that's just complaining. That's a legitimate concern. Shame on us if we would ignore that, right? We go out and we investigate, send people out and say, listen, there's probably something to this. So we'll see if we can improve it or if there is an issue.
Yeah, I always say we have millions of eyeballs on our system every day. So there's a lot of value, even if we had people in every single station around the clock looking around, the reality is having that added resource, kind of a force multiplier by having all those people going in and letting us know what they see can be extremely beneficial. So it's important to know, I guess they should keep tweeting, keep calling the call center and letting us know so we can address things. But your team is already kind of on the case.
Yeah, they're our customers. They're taxpayers and our customers. We have an obligation to them.
Absolutely. So I think we're coming up almost on your 1 year at the MBTA, pretty close at least. What has been your experience thus far, and how do you look back on your time at the T so far?
Well, in the beginning, it's a little rough. It's a new system, and you don't really know anyone. My family was in a different state, and I was up here, and so in the beginning, it is tough to get acclimated. But I have to say, in my relatively brief tenure here, it's amazing how fast you start feeling like you have been here for a long time. Now I know a lot of people. I know who to call to get things done. They know to call me. So let's get on with the core charter here, which is to improve the station and infrastructure at the T. So these surges have been great. We've been out getting a lot of work done, and you're seeing all the employees and everybody engaged. And even last night, we had a get-together for people that are involved in the TIP, which was great to see everybody, construction inspectors, resident engineers, managers, everybody together, and sharing stories and, just laughing a little bit. And it was good to see that bond. I think it's nice. A lot of good people here. They have a lot of good people in the T, and I think it's just up to us to leverage that.
It takes a village, even for a track improvement program.
Yeah, a lot goes into the track improvement program, but it's getting done now.
So looking to the future, what are your goals for this role? And how do you plan to measure your own success and the success in this position in terms of station safety, cleanliness, and just overall rider satisfaction?
We're never going to get the amount of capital to redo every station. Not in the near term anyway, right? Well, not in my career, I should say. So I think I will be successful if, looking back whenever my tenure here, expires, that they're safer, they're cleaner, the infrastructure is more robust. The social media has changed, the tone has changed a little bit. The media is not talking about how this broke or that broke, it's in disrepair. We actually aren't a news item anymore, right? They've moved on to other things. The T is just something that operates smoothly in the city of Boston, and the city of Boston can concern themselves with other things because their transportation system and the associated infrastructure is something they don't really think about. They get on the T, it's on time, the station is clean, they got where they had to go, there was not a lot of speed restrictions, the station experience was enjoyable, and they went on with their lives. And that would be, I think, probably the best. Just, come take the T and enjoy the ride.
Well, I think we're on our way there, and that's good to say, especially as a rider. Selfishly as a rider, I think we're very much on our way, and we have a lot of capable people that are kind of pushing us in that direction. Thank you so much for all of your insights on this. It's been incredibly fascinating to just hear about your experience thus far, the intricacies of managing the stations in our current state of infrastructure. It's been really great to speak with you.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be part of the team.
As we wrap up another insightful episode of Spilling the Tea, I want to thank our guest, Dennis Varley, for joining us today and sharing his expertise and vision for MBTA's stations. Dennis's commitment to making the T's stations safe, secure, and clean is a testament to his extensive experience. We are eager to see how his efforts will positively impact the daily commutes of our riders. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Your engagement and curiosity drive us to keep exploring the critical topics that shape our transit system. Remember to subscribe to Spilling the Tea on your favorite platform and join us next time for more behind-the-scenes insights into the MBTA. If you have any questions or ideas for future episodes, don't hesitate to reach out. We love hearing from you and incorporating your perspectives into our discussions. You can reach us at social@mbta.com. I'm Andrew Cassidy, and this has been Spilling the Tea.